Yes.
That's fine. We're live. Okay, so it is, what's today? The 16th. All right. Hollywood Goes Global, Group 6. That's who we are. Okay. I guess so. Then we just go down the questions and discuss each one, right? That's our strategy here.
That's awesome.
So, what is Hollywood's primary goal for modifying films to appeal to global audiences? I'll take the easy one, I guess. So obviously it's to break into those markets and access the profits and to appease to different cultures.
Like I know like specific. Yeah, definitely. Like whenever I was watching the video, I remember like, and I guess reading like the case study just now, but it talks a lot about how China is the biggest market and they do produce like the most revenue, like almost double the revenue that's even produced in the entire United States. And so like that's a big thing that Hollywood definitely wants to tap into. So I mean, they just want to get a share of the film market in China. And by doing that, get the Chinese people's money. But
you know what I thought was interesting? It says in the text, like for the mini case, it talks about how most of I guess it just attests to the percentage difference of how many people actually live in China, because it talks about how most regular citizens can't afford cinemas in the first place. And so it's just interesting.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, so much more money is plowed into it, given that, you know, a tiny percentage of people can even afford to go to the movies.
Yeah, that's honestly kind of weird. Like I remember when I read that sentence in the book, I was kind of like, man, so like China must really have like a very distinct like lower class and like middle upper class just because like they do watch so many movies, so there has to be someone I guess watching them. But yeah, no, I thought that was weird because like the whole thing was about how China produces like the most revenue and the most views for the American movie market. So
right, and it's considered luxury entertainment for them that few can afford. That's specifically what the text says.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, I guess they must have like a pretty big upper class. I mean, and then I guess there's so many people in China that what we would think is few is many there.
Right,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
It's just crazy how just like a few people there is so much larger than the US market.
And so I think that also on that, like it's important when any company enters into a globalization strategy, it's like, you know, how do you standardize your product to where it appeases different cultures and you lose something, you know, from each because of it. I think that's a good reflection from the material in the text. You lose local responsiveness.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms, especially like the Chinese culture, so I think like here in America, a lot of times we like forget that like other cultures are not like us. So it's like, or I mean, I guess some of us might be, I guess, woke to realize that, but a lot of people don't, and they just think, oh, like everyone just watches the same thing, everyone accepts and appreciates the same kind of content. And I think like definitely in the Chinese culture, like they're way more strict on what is like appropriate for them to see, and like they have a lot of cultural things that if some American movies were shown. Like I remember maybe in the film or the book, it talks about how they like removed patches off of like the guy in Top Gun's jacket
Yeah.
because it's offensive, like
Yeah.
because they're
With the
really like a
flag.
proud country.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the like Hollywood isn't careful, then they're gonna highly offend large amounts of Chinese citizens and not just like a few of them. Like a lot of stuff that's shown in American movie theaters would be highly offensive to
That's for
any
sure.
citizen in China. So I mean,
But I,
they have to modify them. So I guess like the question is just like, was the goal with modifying so they can like get a cut of that market, and they can't get a cut of that market unless they adapt to the values that are held in the Chinese market.
good. So the second question is, after the US film Django Unchained, pretty sure that's how you pronounce that, was recut and
Also,
released in China, it performed poorly, partly because Chinese film goers had already seen the unedited film on DVD. What disadvantage of competing globally does this situation reflect? What 2 to 3 recommendations would you give strategic leaders in Hollywood to address this disadvantage? So I know that one of the reasons why that happened, and it's even a little more different now because that was a big, that at that time it was DVDs, and now we're more streaming content. But
yeah,
big problem was, or is still, copyright laws, right? So most of them had already seen it because it was bootlegged. And so I know that the text talks about releasing the video at the same time, so that, like a global
yeah,
release instead of for, the first year in China and then the second year in the United States or wherever else.
yeah. I'd say like that's definitely a big disadvantage for just in the movie industry in general, just because like going global does take extra time. And like with time, like stuff can be found, seen, like just not the same as the initial release because like there is like illegal activity and people do see it, and we do live in such like a global society that like social media talks about it, just like all these things. But yeah, just like the big advantage of like timeliness is really tough. When you're going global, it's hard to be doing everything at the same time. And yeah, so I think you're definitely like spot on with like what you said about how just like trying to release them at the same time, and like they might have to like wait to release it in the US, but in terms of revenue, ah, sorry, in terms of revenue, like we just talked about, it's such a huge amount of their market share and just like a huge amount of how well their film actually does that it would definitely be worth it if like the Hollywood strategic leaders would wait for a release until everyone was on the same page and they could release it at the same time.
So the danger specifically in that strategy, though, so I think that is called the global standardization strategy, right? So that, it's the exact same product rather than, or I guess then though, if they did, because they do different versions of each, right?
Yeah, so maybe
Most
if
of
they
the
just had
time,
like the versions ready.
right? Have both of them ready rather than like providing in the United States a Chinese Communist Party whitewashed version of what's acceptable
Yeah,
in
that would
China
be
for the whole
bad.
world. Right. But I don't know. It was kind of my feel that it was more moving in that direction because it's obviously more cost effective. And if they're getting more funds from China, it would actually almost make more sense, you know?
To like release it there first or whatever, you know? Um, like I would say, like, what did it say? Like 2 to 3 recommendations
Yeah, I think we've hit it.
in the
Like, haven't we?
question.
No, wait, what was, yeah.
Because I think another one would be like, um, because the Chinese government is so involved in like editing and like saying what's okay and what's not okay, I think having more conversations with them as like strategic Hollywood leaders and like actually going to them and like approaching them in a way that they find culturally acceptable and all of those things, and just like coming to them early and saying like, okay, like we just want to know what you want in the film so like we can release it on time. And so another, I would say like another recommendation would just be like strong communication with like Chinese officials, just because they have so much say in what actually gets released to the public.
Yeah, right. Good.
Yeah.
I don't have a timer. Wait.
We
So
started
the
at 11:17.
so the third question is, Hollywood has tailored movies slightly to appeal to different markets, such as editing Iron Man 3 for China. Apply the integration responsiveness framework to describe which global strategy Hollywood studios followed by doing this. They have tailored movies slightly to appeal to different markets. Well, actually, so I think that maybe I was more answering that question with most of what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say global standardization.
Yeah,
Maybe.
but I mean, I guess when they edit them, it might not be like so standard. So like since they are um editing them so that um they can, I'm just trying to get to the, what is it called? International. Okay. Yeah, so I'd say like they probably, because they're editing like the products to fit like local markets,
It's a
it would
multi.
be one of the ones that's like has a really high local responsiveness rate.
So the
So
multi-domestic strategy, maybe. This strategy arises out of the combination of high pressure for local responsiveness and low pressure for cost reductions. It's almost exactly what you just said. So I would think that
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I would say yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say it's international just because they are being really sensitive to the local market.
Mm-hmm.
And international does not have like little or any local responsiveness. They just like send their product over and like, yeah, like Hollywood is sending the product over, but they're also changing it so that they are responsive and sensitive to like a local audience. So I think,
Multi-domestic.
yeah, I would say like that's definitely um, closest. Like I'm reading something and it says used to compete in host countries with large and lucrative but idiosyncratic domestic markets. So that would definitely completely describe the
Mm-hmm.
Chinese movie market and the American movie market. They both watch movies, they both love movies, but like they're different just because
Right.
the cultures are different.
Right. Perfect. Was that the only thing that question is basically asking? Apply the integration response. Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, within the framework, low, high, yeah. And then the fourth question is, given the global movie industry, what are 2 to 3 opportunities and 2 to 3 threats for Hollywood studios, especially in light of COVID-19, rise of streaming services, and the domestic financial and critical success of international films? So, opportunities and 2 to 3 threats. Well, I mean, obviously the threats. So I guess we'll tackle the opportunities first. You know, I have a major
Yeah.
problem with the opportunities, just the segment, just because, like, from my leadership management background, the quote is, not to be off topic, but it's that we have no opportunities. We have no weaknesses. We have opportunities. And when we have opportunities, we strengthen them, or when we have weaknesses. So actually, your weaknesses are your opportunities. And so every time I do one of these and I see opportunity,
You're like,
my
this isn't
brain
right.
immediately converts
Yeah,
it.
I guess just like different terminology.
Ah,
That's funny.
and this just was beat into me for so many years, you know. I'm like, okay, so
Oh my
opportunities
goodness.
are their strengths, basically, right? Or areas that they can exploit.
Look out for.
You froze on me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you froze on me too. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, are we talking at the same time?
I looked over and your
What were you
face was
saying?
there, and I was like, did she not hear me? I don't think she does. Anyway, okay.
What were you saying?
So the opportunities, 2 to 3 opportunities, will specifically be like areas of strength or items that they can exploit and gain from, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like the first thing that comes to my mind is like an opportunity that they definitely don't want to miss is the opportunity to like release content directly to like Chinese citizens. So yeah, there's still like regulation and stuff, but just like how like did you watch like any of those like Prime releases like during
Prime
COVID?
release? Oh, what is it?
Like on Amazon Prime, how they like released movies
Oh
and
yeah, and they're like
you could like
25
rent them.
bucks. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, no, we were all over it. It was like movie night at home,
Yeah,
projector and everything. Yeah, they got me for sure.
yeah. So like that was such a big thing here. Like even I got on it and got in on it, and I'm not like a big movie goer or anything. Um, but I think like that was such a big thing here. I think they would definitely miss out on reaching like the Chinese public because like the book said, like there's this huge amount of people who can't afford to go to the movies. So if they can capitalize on that in a way that's legal, in a way that they get the money and like the pirated people don't, like just doing like that online streaming where you can like rent it, that would definitely be an opportunity for them to look into or capitalize on if they haven't yet.
Definitely. And then to tagline on that point as well, which it's probably very, very doubtful that they'll go in that direction, but the more regulations that you have and apply, the more opportunity you have for people to break the law or break the regulations. And so, you know, it referenced a lot in the book about piracy problems when there were heavy DVD releases. In fact, like their profits were 1.5 billion, but the amount of revenue that they determined was being siphoned into bootleg DVDs was like 6 million.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was million and not billion. I'm not sure at this point, but you know, anytime you have those high regulations and laws, people are going to work around them and they're going to break them. And so, you know, by coming off of some of those a little bit, they'll be able to gather more of that revenue, decriminalizing some of it even, you know, they'll be able to gather more
Yeah.
revenue than they're losing by just by having it being illegal in the first place.
Yeah, so definitely like working with Chinese officials to see what they can get done on that front. That would definitely be an opportunity they should just like look into because I mean, as the world changes, like countries change too. So like, don't put it past China to do some things to like get more money. Like, I mean, everyone's in for profit, and so I mean, coming with them with a deal, like yeah, maybe you lose like part of it, but at least you'd be getting it. Like at least it
Exactly.
wouldn't be going to like illegal things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. One more opportunity, specifically given the global movie industry, what are 2 to 3? So we said, you know, lowering regulations, and what was yours again?
It was just like
Very quick.
capitalizing on the online streaming.
Online streaming, COVID-19 rise of streaming services. So one more opportunity necessarily. And I think that you've hit on that, so I can just bring that into is more communication with other governments and other systems, and more global communication, I guess, would probably be
Yeah,
a huge
and I
opportunity for
think
them.
like because of COVID, like global communication is like way easier because like used to they like expected you to like come to their country and like sit down, have a conversation. But like because of COVID, like no one can even go anywhere. Like they don't even want you getting close. So it's like
I
totally
don't even want you to go.
acceptable. Like, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally acceptable for you to like have a video conference. And so that makes everyone like it's just way more accessible. So like just taking advantage, like the opportunity would just be like taking advantage of the accessibility of other people in other countries.
So then, like for threats, obviously, economically, everyone has um, suffered. I don't know if we can highlight a lot about. We keep going back to like, what can China do? Was that really the question? Given the global movie industry, what are 2 to 3 opportunities and 2 to 3 threats for Hollywood studios? Because my mind kept going, what can China do to make more money? I'm like, wait, it's
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
but a lot of it is like they have to like communicate with China because China has
yeah,
like so much regulation. So I guess like a
yeah,
threat would be like heightened Chinese regulation. Like with
definitely.
COVID, they might be like limiting like other countries' exposure, which could definitely hurt like Hollywood.
Right. And less obviously with less funds in the system, people are a lot of people are less capable of affording even streaming services, much less, well, I guess specifically lockdowns are have a huge impact on actually going to movie theaters and the big
Yeah.
box office hits. And so it's really getting in front of and capitalizing on the streaming services and the early releases.
Yeah, definitely like a huge threat. It's just like no one can go to the movies. Like that's a huge threat to just like being able to release movies in the way that Hollywood has always released movies. So they're just gonna have to find another way to do it. I think like a big one that obviously we just talked about a lot is just like I might have already said this. I don't know, but
What?
it's just like Chinese regulation. I think I did.
Really?
I think I said heightened Chinese regulation. But like it is such a huge threat to like because at any moment, like China doesn't make laws like we make laws. So at any moment they can just be like, nope, you know? Like
Yeah, pretty much.
so that's a huge threat that they just have to be careful with.
It gives me anxiety just thinking about it.
You're like,
I'm China, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. I gotta go put some Reiki on or something. I don't know.
ah.
Okay, so another threat. I mean, huge as far as COVID goes, and the shutdowns are actually even being able to produce movies, right? So
Yeah,
bringing actors
no, that's
together and
big.
complying with local regulations and
Yeah, that's
the whole
huge.
bit. I mean, so some of the programs that I have enjoyed watching, like I don't watch a lot of TV, but they were in the final stages of their seasons, and like they finished out their episodes digitally. So like they just did them with, I mean, it's great that we have the ability to do that. And so people worked from home and they planted the voices over digital images or whatever. So it was pretty cool. But, that's obviously a huge threat is just even being able to produce movies.
Yeah, that's big.
I think we covered it.
I think we got it good.
We have figured out Hollywood. We can go make
You
some money with
know,
them now.
just put us in. Send
Yeah,
me there. Actually, don't send me there. I want to stay here, but
yeah, no. Now there are some pretty things in California that I'd like to go see.
yeah, go see, but then come back.
Yeah. What's our time limit, our time frame?
We met it. We started at 11:17.
What time is it?
11:42.
Okay, so I'm going to end the video and then we can prepare and I'll make sure to send it properly to Miss.
That sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, see ya, girl.